Part 3. All Heaven's Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 21. 21 Blood Draw. Chunyuan glanced at the at least 500 ml jar on the injection gun in Xian's hand again, shook his head resolutely and said, "Your research on viruses has nothing to do with me, why should I donate blood to you?" "No. Is there really nothing to discuss? This matter is very important." Four Eyes did not give up, and continued to ask. "It's not negotiable." Chunyuan shook his head. "In that case, please get out of here." Four Eyes said lightly. "Was driven away like this?" Chunyuan didn't think so. He shook his head and said, "Then, actually, what the hell?" Suddenly a cold light flashed in front of his eyes, and he almost didn't realize it, so he hurriedly clasped his hands together and caught it, only to see he grabbed the syringe just like that, and the needle tip was less than 3 centimeters away from his forehead. A drop of crystal clear liquid slipped from the needle tip, Chunyuan's nose quivered, and he immediately smelled that it was an anesthetic. Before he could throw away the syringe, 2 more came flying in the blink of an eye. Chunyuan didn't have anything else in his hand, so he quickly waved the syringe he caught in his hand to open the flying syringe, only to hear a click. The syringe in his hand broke in 2, and the anesthetic inside splashed out. He quickly threw it aside. But it wasn't over yet. Four Eyes grabbed 2 more syringes from nowhere and threw them again. Chunyuan looked at the table next to her, and there was a whole box of syringes. What is this guy thinking all day? Chunyuan dodged sideways, and the flying syringe brushed past his face and pinned it to the wall. Then he grabbed a metal bench and threw it over. With a bang, he raised his legs high with Four Eyes and kicked the stool to the side in a twisted shape, and grabbed a handful of syringes. Chunyuan saw that this Nima couldn't let this petite girl play anymore, so he hurriedly swung his waist around and approached, and took advantage of the situation to sweep the ground and hit the four-eyed knee. Don't look at the appearance of a scientist with 4 eyes, but her skills are not weak at all. She jumped up suddenly, swayed her foot, then stepped on the table hard and kicked Chunyuan's chest. Chunyuan's sweeping legs seeing the kick coming, Chunyuan quickly slammed the table under Xian's feet. The table was smashed open, and Xian had to put the other foot on the opposite table. Her posture this became a one-word horse. However, the flexibility of her body is obviously very good, and this movement is not difficult at all. Taking advantage of the situation, she leaps forward and kicks in a series with both hands on the ground. Relying on his good health and strength, Chunyuan rushed up to cross the legs of Xian with his hands, and then kicked her hard on the back. With a bang, Four Eyes crashed into a metal table. In the next second, the entire table flew over, and Chunyuan felt a little angry, kicking the table over. This table flew to the side of the test platform, smashing the test platform to pieces. In the midst of the smoke, the Four Eyes rushed towards her, clasped Chunyuan's elbow with both hands and locked it directly, and then fiercely wanted to buckle it back. This is her best joint technique. And Chunyuan's strength was much stronger than that of the Four Eyes, so he stabilized his arm, and the two of them just wrestled into a ball. And at this moment, the door of the laboratory was opened with a bang, and Beltway came in with 24 beers and said loudly, "Hey! Zero. Why did you come to the laboratory?" Oh, he immediately saw the two writhing in a ball on the ground, and the exclamation in his mouth became higher and higher, and then gave Chunyuan a look that and slammed the door shut. Chunyuan just turned around. Now he and Xian are twisting together almost face to face, the tips of their noses are almost touching. He sighed and said, "I said, what's the matter with you, girl? You don't agree with me at all. Are you going to make a move? I need your blood for research. Are you kidding me? If I smoke a can of this stuff, I won't have to lie in bed for days. I can pay. My salary is twice yours if I remember correctly." The Four Eyes froze and wanted to make a move, but Chunyuan was stronger. He grabbed her wrist and twisted it back. The Four Eyes cried out in pain, and he couldn't move his hands. "And you can't beat me either. Chen Yuyan added. The four eyes stopped talking now, and she just stared straight at Chen Yuyan with her eyes. Although she still looked expressionless and cold, looking into her eyes, Chen Yuyan suddenly felt, her eyes seemed to be, some grievances. Yes, it's a grievance, I didn't run away, if my mouth sags again, I will have to cry. However, the four eyes obviously controlled their emotions and expressions very well, and they still look as cold as ice. But, Chen Yuyan thought that he still didn't know anything about his own body, so he might get some information by providing her with a little blood sample for research. Now there is no one around him who can entrust this matter, maybe Four Eyes really can, after all, they are all comrades who want to go to the battlefield together. Any accident can be easily dealt with on the battlefield, right? So he pretended to be joking and said, well, give me a kiss, I will provide you with 100 milliliters of blood. To be honest, I also want to know what is different in my blood. The expressions in her four eyes suddenly became complicated, and she looked at Chen Yuyan with a somewhat fierce look. After a while, she opened her mouth and said lightly, then is it okay to kiss 5 times? He, Chen Yuyan sneered, and suddenly imprinted lightly on her face, let her go and got up, picked up the injection gun and drew 100 ml of blood from her arm, threw it to the four eyes and stood up said, if you find anything, please let me know. He opened the door and went out, only to find that Beltway was still outside, but the glass in the laboratory was all frosted glass, so he couldn't see clearly what was going on inside. After Chen Yuyan opened the door, he saw a messy laboratory and said with a narrow smile, it's over? It's wild enough. You wild sister. Chen Yuyan kicked Beltway aside. Hey. When did you fix the four eyes? Beltway got up and wanted to say something, but who knew that his tongue drooped uncontrollably, and then his body went limp, fell to the ground. It was only then that Chen Yuyan realized that there was a syringe stuck in his back, which was the one that the four eyes had thrown over him just now. Xian also came out of the laboratory, glanced at Beltway with cold eyes, ignored Chen Yuyan at all, and walked away directly. The next day, Looper called everyone together and said very solemnly, our first mission has come down, in the United States. When he heard America, Chen Yuyan's heart tightened, did it really come? He couldn't help but raised his hand and looked at his electronic watch. The date on it showed, July 2, 1998. In other words, there are still about 2 months before the outbreak of the Raccoon City incident. But what happened during this period, he didn't know. Over there, Looper has turned on the projection, which shows a building built in the middle of the forest. If you saw it in normal times, you can say that the environment is elegant and rich in negative oxygen ions, but looking at it now, you can only feel a little gloomy from it. This is the Acre Mountains near Raccoon City, Colorado, USA. Umbrella Corporation built a Cotter Training Institute there, and there is a large-scale research base under the training institute. It used to be the company's largest research base. The base, however, has been relegated to the second tier after it was updated, and only some relatively minor research is carried out. Looper kept changing the projection, projecting the terrain and photos in the Cotter Training Center and Research Base. However, 2 months ago, the Acre Research Base lost contact with the company, and John, the director of the institute, also disappeared. At first, the company only treated this matter as an ordinary experimental accident, but now, the situation is not simple. Said Rupier. Then our goal is to clean up this Cotter Training Center and Research Base? Mocha the hacker raised his hand and asked. Looper shook his head and said, this is just one of the purposes. Our real goal is to investigate a person William Birkin. Thank you for the 1000 starting point coins rewarded by the Star Sea Rangers. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 22. 22 Acre Institute. William Birkin? I remember he is the director of the Raccoon City Research Institute right now. Why did he go to the Acre Institute? White asked while flipping through the materials. Looper replied, William Birkin is currently in charge of the research and development of Project G, which is a new type of virus developed based on the T virus. Once successfully developed, it will have a great impact on Umbrella's production of a new generation of BOW. Very helpful. Chun Yuyan listened carefully. In fact, during this period of time, they had already learned about some affairs of Umbrella Company. After all, as Looper said before, their U.S. Delta team is basically dealing with some shady things in the company, and the prerequisite for dealing with these things is to have some understanding. The so-called B.O.W is bioorganic weapon, organic biological weapon, that is to say, various biological weapons are produced through mass production for combat. Umbrella's ability to become the world's leading huge group is definitely not achieved by relying on pure pharmaceuticals. Their real business is B.O.W. Especially for most third world countries, it is actually very expensive to buy tanks, aircraft, and cannons. Whether it is the weapons themselves, maintenance fees, fuel costs, and ammunition costs are huge expenses. But B.O.W is different. It can be said that it is of high quality and low price, and it is even more urgently needed for those small countries in deep war. And this is the reason why Umbrella has really been able to rise in the underground arms market. The T-virus is the product used by Umbrella Corporation to mutate organisms into biological weapons. On the stage, Rupier continued to explain to them, but William Birkin has been claiming to the company that the research and development of the G project has not been smooth, and there has been no substantial progress. However, the company believes that he has actually completed the development of Project G, at least for the most part, is just waiting for bids from others. Chun Yuyan grasped the key point in his heart, and he knocked on the table and said, so, now the company is only suspicious, and it is not justified by emotion and reason to take action against William Birkin, a heavyweight without evidence. So, we went to the Cotter Training Center in the Acre Mountains just to find some nasty things he did before? Looper nodded approvingly and said, that's right. 10 years ago, James Marcus, one of the founders of Umbrella, died in the Acre Cotter Training Institute. The company has always considered it an experimental accident. But now, the high-level suspects that William Birkin and Albert Wesker murdered him in partnership. We are going this time. There are two missions over there. First, to investigate the murder of William Birkin and Albert Wesker Marcus's evidence. Second, investigate the current situation of the Acre Research Institute and report to the company headquarters. So if there is an experimental accident in the Acre Institute and we lose contact, then what we have to face may be more complicated. Although the Acre Institute has retreated to the second line, there are still some B.O.Ws there. The prototype exists. The cold voice from the Four Eyes came. That's right, Umbrella's first mature B.O.W, the prototype of the Tyrant T-001 is stored in the Acre Research Institute, but it is not the focus of our mission. If the T-001 Tyrant escapes, then destroy it, if not, then ignore it, someone will naturally come to recover it. Next, prepare the equipment, and we will set off in 20 minutes. Looper clapped his hands to end the meeting. The U.S. equipment library is gorgeous, and it stores almost the most advanced firearms and various equipment in the world. Chun Yuyan first put on a black combat uniform made of biological materials. This combat uniform is light, heat dissipating, and has unparalleled toughness. It has a good defense ability against sharp weapons and even smaller shrapnel. And most importantly, when entering the polluted area, it can also isolate Chun Yuyan from being infected by pollutants. This combat uniform is standard for all members of the U.S., but it has been adjusted according to each individual's specific needs. Beltway, for example, asked for Kevlar explosion-proof liners to be added to the combat uniform, because he needs to deal with explosives all the time. On the combat uniform of Four Eyes, There are many small bulletproof and shockproof pockets reserved for storing all kinds of bottles and cans she often carries, which are full of her unique viruses. Chen Yuyan's request was very simple. There must be a space on the back of the combat uniform to carry two weapons conveniently, and there must be enough space to place magazines. In addition, a layer of titanium alloy armor should be added on the wrists of both hands. These are all the modification plans he proposed based on the likely combat environment in Raccoon City, and Umbrella's logistics department is also very generous to meet all his requirements. In terms of weapons, Chen Yuyan still chose the MP5 submachine gun, not for any other reason, mainly because the MP5 submachine gun uses NATO standard 9mm pistol bullets, which can be seen everywhere in gun stores in the United States, which is convenient for resupply. And he also carried a Saiga-12 semi-automatic shotgun at the same time. He thinks his marksmanship is very average. Choosing this kind of shotgun with high reliability can well make up for the lack of firepower of MP5. Of course, facing the distributed equipment, Chen Yuyan naturally accepted all of them unceremoniously. Scanning is complete. Special combat uniforms have been entered into the Infinite Base database and can be produced. Scanning is complete. The MP-5 submachine gun has been entered into the Infinite Base database and can be produced. The scan is complete. The M-67 grenade has been entered. The scan is complete. The SV-98 sniper rifle has been entered. The scan is complete. The M401 assault rifle has been entered. Chen Yuyan browsed around the arsenal, used all the weapons for the reason of test firing, and then scanned them all into the database of the Infinite Base. Now when he returns to the original Command and Conquer world, he can immediately arm a well-equipped army. It's a pity that the U.S.S is just a special force hired by the company after all, and doesn't have too many heavy weapons. The Concorde technology, which was sprayed with the logo of Umbrella Corporation, flew across the night sky at high speed, flew across the Atlantic Ocean and the North American continent, landed at the private airport in Colorado, and then changed to a helicopter and flew towards the Acre Mountains. The Acre Mountains are right next to Raccoon City, surrounding the entire city and surrounded by mountains on three sides. Looking down from the sky, the whole city is still peaceful. Now it is almost evening, and colorful neon lights are lit up in the city, and the street lights are also lit early. From the sky, it seems that there are long dragons drawn up. This is such a city, it will be destroyed in September, and more than 100,000 people in the city will die. Chen Yuyan squinted his eyes and looked at Raccoon City with a heavy heart. Just as he was thinking in his mind, the helicopter flew into the mountains, and the ground immediately turned into a boundless jungle. After flying for a few more minutes, a small lake appeared below. A very elegant building was built beside the lake, and there was even an observatory behind the building. This is the Cotter Training Center. Put on the gas mask, Ghost. Take a look. Looper said. Everyone immediately put on the gas masks. The gas masks provided by Umbrella were very functional. In addition to the air filtering function, they also had communication and night vision functions. In order to monitor them, the company also has small cameras and positioning systems on the gas masks. After the Ghost put on the gas mask, he pressed it lightly against his ear, and the eyepiece on the mask immediately extended like tentacles. After adjusting the focus factor, all the buildings shrouded in darkness came into his eyes. There is no light, and there is no sign of life. Many windows are broken and there are blood stains on them. The Ghost said in a deep voice, "Wait a minute, I saw someone moving on the third floor." "Are you sure?" Rupier asked. "I can't be sure, it's a blind spot." The Ghost replied. "Klein, land on the roof of the training center, and then you guard the helicopter. The remaining people are divided into 3 groups to search the entire Cotter Training Center. Act." Looper gave an order, and everyone immediately prepared for battle. The helicopter landed on the roof of the building, and the huge propeller blade slapped the air to make a loud sound, but the four-story building was like a giant sleeping in the dark, motionless at all. Everyone filed out. Chunyuyan, Four Eyes, and Ghost were in Group A, Rupier, Bertha, and White were in Group B, Beltway, Victor, and Mocha were in Group C. Group C went down the stairs. Group B used a rope to descend to the third floor and entered through the window, while Chunyuyan's a group directly jumped to the first floor with a rope and searched from bottom to top. The action begins. Thank you for the 1000 starting point coins rewarded by the Star Sea Rangers. Thanks to Samwick for the reward of 200 starting coins. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. All Heaven's Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 23. 23 First Encounter with Zombies. Chunyuyan walked in the front, looking at the gate of the Cotter Training Center in front of him. This used to be a very old manor. Because it is adjacent to the lake and has beautiful scenery, it was bought by Umbrella Company and used to train the younger generation of Cotters. But in fact, from all kinds of information, it can be learned that the main reason why Umbrella bought this manor is because it is remote enough, so when the company conducts various anti-human experiments here, it will not be discovered. And a considerable part of those Cotters who were sent here for training in the pretense of the name have also become experimental products for human experiments. Now Chunyuyan is no longer in the ignorant state he was when he first came to this world. After entering the U.S., he was able to get in touch with many confidential documents of the company, thus gaining a better understanding of Umbrella Corporation. He was able to understand that the company's virus experiments were first carried out on mice, then on human corpses, and now they openly experimented on living people. Behind Umbrella's hundreds of billions of dollars of assets is the blood of countless innocent people. Such a company has no right to survive in the world. Of course, just like when he was an undercover agent before, he would not rashly jump out to oppose him when he was not strong enough, it was just a way of death. As Looper said before, everyone in the U.S. is at the same level as him, that is to say, if they openly fall out with Umbrella, then the U.S. will definitely have the ability to kill itself. Chunyuyan gently pushed the door open, and the lack of lubrication made a creaking sound, and Ghost and Four Eyes immediately shone tactical flashlights on both sides. The interior of the building is in a very elegant European classical style, but now the entire foyer is in a mess, broken glass and incomplete furniture are scattered everywhere, precious carpets and oil paintings have also been torn to pieces, and everyone's leather boots are on the floor. There was a crackling sound on the broken glass. On a table in front, there is still a female corpse hanging. The blood on the corpse almost dyes the white shirt black. Four Eyes went up and pulled the corpse with a pistol, and said flatly, "The time of death is at least a month, and it is very obvious that he was infected by the T-virus." As soon as she finished speaking, the female corpse suddenly raised her head and let out a hoarse roar. The Four Eyes were prepared, and one foot stepped on it, and immediately stepped on the head of the female corpse. She got through the communication with Looper and said, "The deceased infected with the T-virus was found on the first floor. It is estimated that it took more than a month. At present, the level of biochemical infection in the Cotter Training Center can be raised to level 2. Understood, you are now starting to search for the source of infection. Group C Mocha, your goal is the office of John, the director of the Research Institute, and hack into his personal computer to find useful information." Looper's voice came, and everyone also past the gas mask heard it. Chunyuyan looked at the female corpse with a different head, and asked the question he wanted to ask in his previous life when he watched such zombie movies: these people have died after being infected with the T-virus, but why are they still able to move? T-virus is the basic virus used to develop BOW. It is a type of RNA virus. In terms that your brain can understand, since it is a biological weapon, the most basic requirement is to be able to act autonomously. And those infected with T virus, because the number of viruses in the human body is very small, they cannot meet the mutation requirements, so they only retain a part of the instinct of the virus. Based on this instinct, they will control the actions of these corpses. As for the instinct, it is actually the same as all living things, survival and reproduction. The greatest instinct of the T virus vector is to replicate itself and create more infected people. At the same time, as a weapon, attacking other targets is also one of the instincts. Four Eyes replied. Our goal is to find the source of infection. There is no doubt that the source of the virus came from the direction of the research institute. But the research institute is not in this direction. The ghost's deep and hoarse voice came from the earphone. If you are going to the Acre Institute, then you need to take the cable car from behind the Cotter Training Institute. The entrance to the institute is in Mr. Spencer's mansion over there, which is in the other direction of the lake. Looper's voice came, but now you are still searching here, you need to know how the T virus spread. Indeed, according to the normal situation, it is impossible for the Cotter Training Center to be affected by the virus leaked by the Acre Research Institute. Four Eyes nodded. Let's start with the inspection of drinking water. Chen Yuyan thought for a while and proposed a plan. Four Eyes were about to speak, when suddenly she turned to the next room, and Chen Yuyan immediately heard a thumping sound coming from the room. The three of them looked at each other, walked over carefully, and opened the door. Countless black flies flew out with a buzzing sound, and there were a few mice running away scattered on the ground. Although they couldn't smell it through the gas mask, Chen Yuyan could still imagine it. The stench that hits the face. In the middle of this room, there are 2 or 3 mutilated corpses piled up impressively. These corpses are already highly decomposed, almost mixed together, but it can still be seen from the tragedy that they have all experienced a lot of tearing and biting before they were alive, and their stomachs were almost disemboweled, and their entire chests were emptied. Those mice, Chen Yuyan said in a deep voice. That's right, it's one of the sources of infection. You can handle the rest. Xian said, took out the injection gun and squatted next to one of the corpses, regardless of the nausea, opened the corpse's mouth and inserted the injection gun. The interstitial fluid is extracted. The ghost made a gesture to Chen Yuyan, and he stood at the door to guard. Chen Yuyan looked at the movements of his 4 eyes. No matter how strong his mental capacity was, he still felt extremely disgusted seeing this scene. He saw a few people in the corner of the room, all standing facing the wall, swaying, bumping their heads against the wall from time to time, so it turned out that this was the reason for the pounding sound they heard just now. He pulled out a dog-leg machete and walked over. He seemed to hear a sound or smell, and those people turned around suddenly. All they saw was that their faces were already rotten, and their flesh was hanging on their cheeks in pieces, and pus was still flowing, and there were countless pustules on their bodies. Seeing Chen Yuyan approaching, they let out a deep roar that seemed to be moaning, and rushed over desperately. This is the zombie. Chen Yuyan narrowed his eyes. He didn't draw his gun, but raised his knife and stepped forward to kick the zombie in front. Boom! The zombie was kicked away by him, and at the same time knocked down the zombie behind. But they quickly got up. The front zombie's legs were all broken, but they still rushed forward regardless. Chen Yuyan slapped away the zombie's claws, and at the same time chopped off his head with the Nepalese dogleg knife in his hand. This kind of dogleg knife was specially chosen by him. The official name is Gurkha Army knife. But with this effort, several other zombies have already rushed up. Chen Yuyan wanted to test the strength of the zombies. He raised his hand to block them. With the titanium alloy armor inlaid on the wrist of the combat uniform, these zombies couldn't be scratched at all. But even so, the power of the 3 zombies rushing forward at the same time actually pushed Chen Yuyan back step by step. What a power! It is completely 2 to 3 times that of ordinary people. I saw that killing zombies in other movies and novels was a simple one-shot operation, but I realized through actual experience that the power of these zombies is astonishing. Think about it, the zombies in the Resident Evil series are all caused by being infected with the T-virus, and the T-virus is a virus used to make biological weapons, so it is only natural that it will increase the power of mutants. Moreover, ordinary humans have the instinct of self-protection, but these zombies do not, so they can use even self-mutilation to exert force, and the power is naturally greater. Chunyuan pushed the 3 zombies away with all his strength, and then chopped off the head of one of them again. Then he used the titanium alloy armor on his wrist to clamp the mouth of another zombie, and kicked the 3rd zombie aside. It's easy to separate them. Although these zombies have great strength and fast movements, they go straight after all. Chunyuan chopped off the zombie's hands with one knife, and then chopped its head into 2 halves. "Is this what you are capable of?" came the voice with 4 cold eyes. Chunyuan looked back and found that she had finished her work and was coming over to take samples from the zombies here. At this moment, there was a crisp sound of glass breaking from outside. Immediately afterwards, a bang was heard, and the ghost guarding the gate shot. "It's mutated wild dogs. There are a lot of them," Ghost said in a deep voice. "Thank you for the 1000 starting point coins rewarded by the Star Sea Rangers. Thanks to Tees fans, Zio, and Yin for the 100 starting point coins. All Heavens Unlimited Base." Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 24. 24 Fog. Zombie dog? Chunyuan was taken aback, and quickly rushed to the door. Through the light of the tactical flashlight, we can see more than a dozen black shadows rushing towards us at high speed. Boom! Boom! The Phantom had already started shooting. The weapon he uses is the latest Russian-developed SV-98 sniper rifle. This rifle is a brand new weapon that has just come out in 1998. God knows how Umbrella got this advanced weapon. The SV-98 sniper rifle has ferocious firepower and extremely high accuracy. In addition, the Ghost is a natural marksman, and it can shoot without missing a beat. With one shot, it kills 4 or 5 zombie dogs within a few seconds. However, there were nearly 20 zombie dogs rushing in from the outside, and they still retained a certain IQ, and immediately outflanked them from several directions at the same time. Chunyuan shouted, "Come behind me." As he spoke, he stepped forward to block the door, picked up the MP-5 submachine gun and fired a burst. His marksmanship was far worse than that of a Ghost, and the bullets of the MP-5 submachine gun were not powerful enough. Although he hit a few zombie dogs, he failed to kill any of them. Seeing the zombie dogs rushing forward, Chunyuan smashed one of them with the butt of his gun, dropped the submachine gun, and took out the Saiga-12 shotgun with the other hand and fired a single shot. The 2 zombie dogs transferred from the other side were immediately smashed into pieces by countless bullets. He then kicked the 2 zombie dogs away with a whip kick. Completely shrouded in under Chunyuan's cover, Ghost and 4 Eyes also poured firepower on the zombie dog with more confidence. 4 Eyes is only using a Beretta 92 FS pistol. The firepower she can provide is not very strong, but it is also very accurate, and Chunyuan also understands that her ability is far more than that, but there is no need to use it now. That's all. That's right, in front of the defense line composed of 3 elite U.S.S players, 20 or so zombie dogs are not a big threat at all. Even this group of zombie dogs can easily wipe out a whole group of regular soldiers. With a bang, the glass on the other side of the room was smashed, and several zombie dogs rushed in from behind the 4 Eyes. However, the 4 Eyes had been prepared for a long time. She turned back very nimbly, and the pistol fired one after another in mid-air, instantly headshot a zombie dog, and when she landed, she had already pulled out her dagger and directly shot the other zombie dog nailed to the ground. The 3rd zombie dog has already pounced on it, its mouth is wide open, and its head is almost split open. The long tongue keeps waving like a snake letter. But the 4 Eyes were completely indifferent and did not move. But the zombie dog couldn't bite anymore, Its big mouth was already stuck by a pistol, and the person holding the pistol was a ghost. Boom! The bullet was fired from the zombie dog's mouth, its head exploded, and countless stinky rotten meat and black blood splashed all over the entire wall behind. Click. Chen Yuyan pulled the bolt, put the Saiga-12 shotgun that was still smoking from the muzzle back on his back, and picked up the MP-5 submachine gun from the ground. Looking around, the more than 20 zombie dogs that rushed in just now have been killed. What happened? Looper's voice came from the communicator. A group of zombie dogs should have been attracted by the sound of the helicopter before. Chen Yuyan replied. This shows that the T-virus has begun to spread outward. The situation is very bad. It is almost impossible for us to clean up the entire Acre Mountain area. Four Eyes said. Group C, report your situation. Looper continued to ask. There is a conference room on the 4th floor that is chained. There should be at least 30 zombies in it. Beltway is going to use bombs to clean it up, Mocha said. It's fine to clean it, but it's best not to fry it. Before Looper could finish speaking, Beltway's excited voice was heard, aha! Blow me up! Boom! There is no need for a communicator, the sound of the huge explosion was clearly heard in everyone's ears, accompanied by Mocha's angry cry, F***. Beltway, you humming won't wait for us to go far away before detonating. Chen Yuyan curled his lips, ignoring the noisy communicator. He, Four Eyes, and the ghost had already arrived in the kitchen, and Four Eyes took out a small instrument to test the water flowing out of the faucet. There is 0.014 milligrams of T-virus in 100 milliliters of samples. Considering the time when the Cotter Training Institute lost contact and the speed of self-replication of T-virus, it is necessary to recalculate the content of T-virus a month ago, which is about 100 milliliters of water. 0.005 milligrams of T-virus. Four Eyes said. What does this figure represent? Asked the ghost. This dose will not cause death immediately. A small amount of T-virus will have an incubation period of about a week after entering the human body before it breaks out. Four Eyes said. That is to say, someone poisoned it deliberately, and because of the incubation period of the virus, the people here didn't notice it? Chen Yuyan frowned. The ghost thought for a while and said, behind the Cotter Training Center, there is a sewage treatment plant. Maybe the T-virus spread through there. No, the real source is the research institute, because only there is the T-virus, we should go to the research institute. Chen Yuyan has selfish intentions, he wants to go to the research institute and get the umbrella company's technology through scanning. Ghost nodded and agreed to Chen Yuyan's proposal. Just when Chen Yuyan was about to leave, he suddenly found a dark mass at the foot of the kitchen wall. He frowned, and walked over to check carefully, only to find that there was a bunch of sticky leeches gathered in a pile. Four Eyes. Come and take a look. Chen Yuyan greeted. Four Eyes walked over to see the scene, and it was a bit strange, how come there are leeches here? And this leech is at least 3 times larger than ordinary leeches. This is the leech used by Umbrella Company for experiments. The company is researching leeches? Chen Yuyan asked. Four Eyes coldly snorted and said with a poisonous tongue, it's in the company's information, of course you won't notice it with your poor IQ. The T-virus was finally successfully developed by fusing the leech gene. Then how did these leeches come into the kitchen of the Cotter Training Center? Chen Yuyan asked again. Go to the research institute, there should be a container for cultivating leeches, go and see if there is a leak. Four Eyes replied. Umbrella's research institute in the Acre Mountains is located underground in a foreign-style mansion built to hide from the public's eyes, and that mansion is not far from the Cotter Training Center, across the lake on both sides. From here, you need to cross the observatory, which is usually hidden, and start the cable car to go there. But these are not a problem at all for the U.S.S team with the highest authority provided by Umbrella Corporation, and they also have complete maps of these places in their hands. Therefore, 10 minutes later, Chen Yuyan and the other three were already standing at the entrance of the mansion. The T-virus also leaked here, Spectre said calmly, looking at the dark woods outside the mansion. Chen Yuyan also felt that something was moving in that dark jungle. But this is not their purpose, they directly entered the mansion to the back garden. The ghost entered the password on the switch hidden in a bush, only to see the fountain in the middle of the garden suddenly open, and a hidden staircase appeared in front of them. Thank you for the 1000 starting point coins rewarded by the Star Sea Rangers. Thank you for the 300 starting point coins that you can reward by telling the truth. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 25. 25 John. The three of them took an elevator like an iron cage and descended to the ground. The Umbrella Company's research institute in the Acre Mountains was built about 10 meters underground, which is about the third floor underground. This is the largest research institute of Umbrella Corporation. The basis for the company to really start to rise, the T-virus was developed and completed here. The facility's internal mains power supply has been cut, with only the emergency power supply working. The emergency power supply will only ensure the power supply to important areas of the institute, and the lighting will appear very dim. And because this research institute has been built a long time ago, the facilities are very old, most of the water pipes and wires are exposed, and under the dim light, it looks like a dungeon, dark, damp, narrow, and the terrain is complicated. Because many places were excavated directly along the terrain, the structure of the cave is still preserved, and some drops of water drip from time to time on the stalactites on the ceiling. Chen Yuyan and the others walked on the rusted iron floor, making a series of rattling sounds. This shabby local company actually calls this a research institute. Chen Yuyan complained. The Acre Institute was founded in 1968, and it was built on the basis of a huge underground cave when it was built. The environment is not important, as long as they can give them the best experimental environment. Phantom said slowly, so don't think that this once represented the highest peak of biotechnology in the world, but it is actually such a broken place. A lunatic whose mind is only about scientific research, Chen Yuyan repeated, and couldn't help but look back. However, this petite girl didn't say a word, she just focused on the experimental equipment around her, and seemed to be full of interest in this research institute. Not long after walking forward, some researchers who had turned into zombies appeared in front of everyone, but they were easily killed by them. When he came to an office, Xian suddenly stopped, turned his head and looked through the window to look inside the office, and then pushed the door open. This office is so small that it can barely fit a desk, and in front of the desk, there is a zombie who is trying to rush over violently, screaming and screaming. Chen Yuyan looked carefully, and it turned out that the zombie was handcuffed to the table. "Hi, John," he said calmly, looking at the zombie with 4 eyes. Chen Yuyan saw that this zombie was tall and blonde, and he should have been a sunny and handsome person before he was alive, but this zombie is not in the right condition. Chen Yuyan saw that the left head of the zombie was broken off, and there was an obvious bullet hole in the temple on the right. Before he was alive, this person had committed suicide. Why did he die after being shot? Can you turn into a zombie? Who told you that headshots can definitely kill zombies? 4 Eyes said disdainfully, when the T-virus content in the human body is higher than a certain level, even if the headshot is taken, the zombies that are the carriers of the T-virus will only temporarily go dormant. The virus repairs the vector and mutates even more violently. Just as he was speaking, the zombie's handcuffed left hand was torn off suddenly under the violent struggle, and it rushed up, and the speed was extremely fast. Because they were too close, the 4 Eyes didn't react immediately, and they were about to be bitten by the zombies. After the banquet, Chenyu first opened the four eyes and blocked himself in front of the zombies. The zombie tried desperately to bite, but Chenyu blocked it with the titanium alloy plate on his wrist. Its right hand also grabbed his face instantly, and Chenyu quickly grabbed its claw again. I only saw that the zombie's hand had mutated into a claw, extremely sharp. Boom! The ghost shot, and the 7.62mm caliber bullet fired by the SV-98 sniper rifle instantly exploded the head of the zombie. The zombie was knocked to the ground by the impact of the bullet, but was still struggling. Although its head was blown off, new mutated tissues continued to grow from its neck. Chenyu had already stood up, took out the shotgun and shot his entire upper body into countless pieces. He stopped him with four eyes, then took out a bottle containing blue potion, walked over and poured the potion on the zombie. All I saw was that the zombie was melted into countless stinky liquids at a speed visible to the naked eye, flowing down from the cracks in the floor. "You know him?" Chenyu asked with a sigh of relief. He used to be a researcher at Umbrella's Chicago Research Institute. Later, the company started the G project under the proposal of William Birkin. Later, it was found that the Acre Mountain Research Institute could not meet the experimental needs, so it was transferred to the Raccoon. The Research Institute in the city continued to study. Since then, the Acre Mountain Research Institute has been in a semi-abandoned state, so John was transferred here. Four Eyes said, when he was still in Chicago, I met him a few times, he taught me something about virology. Chenyu frowned and said, why do you say that this John, who was promoted from a researcher to a research director, looks like he was exiled? Almost, because John has always opposed human experiments, so the higher UPS don't like him. Four Eyes replied. Suddenly, a powerful voice came from the communication, don't talk about things that shouldn't be talked about casually. This is the way of survival in Umbrella Corporation. Chenyu cursed himself for being careless in his heart, and quickly said solemnly, I understand, Commander. The speaker was the commander-in-chief of the entire U.S.S force, but Chenyu didn't know who he was, only that he was monitoring the U.S.S at all times. Like right now, they have cameras on their gas masks, and their communications are open. That is, what they see and what they say is monitored at all times. He glanced at John's desk again, and there was still a letter on it. Chenyu took out the letter and looked at it briefly. It was a letter addressed to a person named Ada Wang, and it was written by John. It probably means that John knows that he is infected with the virus, so he hopes that after reading the letter, Ada Wang will use the password mentioned in the letter to open his computer, then take away the data in it, and then activate the self-destruct. The program blows up the entire institute. This letter was written on June 8, which means that the date the virus really started to spread here was a month ago. Chenyu shook the letter paper and asked, do you need to destroy it? No, put it back where it was, it's a pretty good bait. The commander said, go to the main control room of the Research Institute now, release all the B.O.W prototypes in the Research Institute, and then retreat. The level of biochemical infection here has reached level 4. According to the company's articles of association, it should be destroyed. Why? Four Eyes was a little puzzled. Of course this place will be destroyed. But not by you. This place will be used to test the actual combat data of these B.O.Ws before it will be destroyed. Well, don't ask too many questions, just do it. After the commander finished speaking, just stop talking. Thank you for the 1000 starting point coins rewarded by the Star Sea Rangers. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. All Heaven's Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 26. 26 Scan Technology Tree. They used the highest authority, entered the password and took the elevator to the bottom of the Research Institute. Compared with the previous floors, This place is brand new and well maintained, and the surrounding lights are relatively brighter. However, walking in the corridor, Chen Yuyan still felt the constant chill in his heart. Because on both sides of the corridor, there are several rows of glass culture tanks, and the things in them are even more creepy. All kinds of brains, from humans to other animals. Some internal organs that have been separated from their limbs, but are still wriggling after being connected to the wires. There are also some creatures that have mutated to the point where they can't see their original appearance at all. It's as if all kinds of creatures are mixed together, all kinds of insects, animals, and humans are mixed together, forming countless terrifying monsters. No matter how good Chen Yuyan's psychological quality is, he still feels his stomach churning now. These are the various B.O.Ws developed by the company, Four Eyes said indifferently, and she couldn't hear any emotions. You mean these are biological weapons? Chen Yuyan said, pointing to a monster in a culture tank. The monster barely had a humanoid outline, but its body was covered with long, hard hair, and its eyes had turned into insects. The same compound eyes. This kind of creature is not much different from ordinary people when it encounters bullets on the battlefield. The Four Eyes clicked on the computer next to it a few times, and curled their lips with some disdain. This kind of B.O.W is called a chimera, and it is the product of a mixture of human and fly genes. But it no longer has the fly's ability to fly, it's just movement. It's just faster, and in addition, their rapid reproduction should be regarded as an advantage. But in general, it's still a failure. They came to the deepest part of the research institute, where a huge 5-meter-high glass culture tank stood impressively, and inside it stood a huge human figure at least 3 meters tall. It is said to be in human form because this thing is still in the shape of a bald human being, and its muscles are almost abnormally developed. But it was covered in pustules, and a huge heart was exposed and beating vigorously. Its right hand is full of mutated tissues, and has become horny, and a long sharp claw grows from the tip, as if holding a sword in its hand. Tyrant, the company's most proud B.O.W product. But this is only the T-001 model, which exists as a prototype and has no actual combat value. Four Eyes recognized the origin of this thing at a glance. We are here to carry out a mission, not to visit. Ghost said coldly. He pushed away a researcher zombie who rushed over, and then took out his pistol and shot him in the head. Four Eyes nodded, came to the console to enter the password, and then said, I will activate all the B.O.Ws in stock and turn off the protection system after 3 minutes, which means that after 3 minutes, the entire institute will be full of this BOW. Then prepare to retreat, Ghost said. Chen Yuyan glanced at the screen in front of Xian, and dozens of B.O.W data were scrolling on it. He thought about it in his heart, and silently said in his heart with the thought of giving it a try, System, scan this place. The scanning conditions cannot be met, and there are other people who are not from the same camp as the experimenter. Damn it, Chen Yuyan cursed inwardly, and then asked, then how long will it take to scan? This used to be the most important research institute of Umbrella Corporation. There are a lot of data stored in it, and the scanning time takes 10 minutes. Once the scan is complete, the base will unlock part of the Resident Evil tech tree. Okay, Chen Yuyan took a deep breath, and suddenly said, Commander, do you want to release these B.O.Ws to lure other people to fight them and then collect data? The commander's majestic voice sounded in the communication. That's right, and I can tell you that the ones who will be lured here as experimental products are the Special Operations Team of the Raccoon City Police Department. STARS investigate some inside stories of the company that cannot be known by others, so their ending is to die miserably as experimental subjects. I hope you U.S.S will not follow in their footsteps. Looper suddenly cut into the communication, and she said seriously, our U.S.S is absolutely loyal to the company and will not do unnecessary things. Please rest assured, Commander. He, very good. At this time, Chen Yuyan said suddenly, the training has been a little boring, Commander. I apply to stay in the research institute and play with those B.O.Ws for a while. I just said, don't do unnecessary things. Looper said sternly. Application, accept. The commander immediately agreed, and then laughed with satisfaction, ha 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 ha. Originally, I thought that if you use your U.S.S for testing, it would be difficult to obtain accurate actual combat data of BOW, but now, since Zero volunteered to test, why not do it? Four Eyes, Ghosts, you retreat first, only in this way can we see Zero's true strength. Zero, are you sure you want this? Rupier asked. We may have a lot of time to deal with this kind of incident in the future, so I also want to feel it in advance. I will only play here for 10 minutes, and I won't kill all the BOW. Chen Yuyan replied with a smile. Very well, I will also watch your performance throughout, don't play tricks. The commander said. The ghost was very straightforward, turned around and left without saying a word. Xian followed suit and prepared to leave, but after walking a few steps, he turned around and said, let's find a way to survive. Chen Yuyan chuckled, are you worried about me? Xian sneered and stopped talking, just followed the ghost and left here. Chen Yuyan watched them leave in the elevator through the surveillance, and then said silently again in his heart, system, start scanning. The biochemical weapon database of Umbrella Corporation was detected. The director of the research institute, John, and other researchers have all died, and now the research institute has only one experimenter, who is considered to be in a dominant state and can be scanned. Scanning starts, estimated time is 10 minutes. Experimenters are requested not to leave the institute. Is it okay if you don't leave the research institute? Chen Yuyan chuckled secretly, and continued to stare at the monitor. At this time, the dormant B.O.Ws in the research institute had begun to wake up gradually, and some monsters who recovered faster had even started to knock on the glass culture tanks. Chen Yuyan looked at the culture tank next to him containing the T-001 tyrant, thought for a while, and shut down its awakening process through the console. There is only one of this thing, let's leave it for that S.T.A.R.S. Now I'm here to waste time, and leave after 10 minutes, I don't want to fight with such a big tyrant. But the words have been released, no matter how you say it, you have to kill some B.O.Ws. Chen Yuyan looked at the monitor again, only to see that more and more monsters rushed out of the broken culture tanks, and even the culture tanks that were not broken began to rise gradually, letting them out. Some B.O.Ws are still looking around in a little confusion, while others have already started to become manic. Even through monitoring, we could see that some of the zombies they had killed along the way began to stand up again. There were more and more mutated tissues on their bodies, and their nails gradually evolved into sharp claws. Then, let's start. 0. The commander's voice came. Chen Yuyan's eyes froze, he opened the door and walked out. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 27. 27 Umbrella Technology Tree. Da-da-da-da. Gunshots sounded, and Chen Yuyan sprinted forward in the narrow corridor while holding the MP-5 in one hand and shooting. In front of him, a berserk zombie was hit back again and again by bullets. For this kind of berserk zombie, the head was no longer a weak point, and even a full shuttle of bullets couldn't kill it. Of course, Chen Yuyan didn't expect to kill it with bullets. He rushed forward and used the titanium alloy plate on his wrist to block the teeth of the berserk zombie, and then cut off its two sharp claws with a knife with the other hand. Then Chen Yuyan roared loudly, pushing the berserk zombie forward quickly in the corridor. A chimera that was half human and half fly fell from the ceiling, and its sickle-like claws slashed straight down, cutting the berserk zombie into two pieces on the left and right half. At this time, Chen Yuyan had already stepped on the body of the berserk zombie and jumped up, and fell from the sky relying on his own body weight to knock the chimera to the ground. While stepping on the monster, he had already replaced the magazine for the MP-5, and then suddenly turned around and pulled the trigger at a 1-meter-long mutant spider that was rushing quietly from behind him. Be the web weaver. The flames ejected from the muzzle kept flickering, and the light bullets drew dazzling bands of light in the air. The web weaver was beaten to the point where juice splashed all over his body, and then his round belly exploded suddenly, and a large number of people crawled out of it. Small spider. With the wrong foot, Chen Yuyan immediately broke the neck of the chimera that was under her feet, and at the same time took out a grenade and stuffed it into its mouth. Boom! The explosion exploded violently in the corridor, and the strong shock wave along the corridor instantly emptied the surrounding B.O.W within tens of meters. Chen Yuyan had already hid in a nearby office and held the metal door firmly. He was ready to go out after the aftermath of the explosion dissipated. However, at this moment, a corpse that was lying next to the desk suddenly wanted to stand up. Chen Yuyan raised his foot with a whip kick, and immediately kicked the zombie's head 180 degrees, the skull was sunken, and the zombie immediately fell to the ground. After opening the door and going out, Chen Yuyan looked at the electronic watch on his wrist. He had set a 10-minute countdown just now, and now there are still 3 minutes left. The corners of his mouth turned up slightly, and he ran into the fork on the other side as soon as he turned his feet. Many B.O.Ws rushed towards the side following the sound of the explosion, but Chen Yuyan ran into another passage just to avoid it. He also killed many B.O.Ws along the way, but most of these B.O.Ws were developed based on insects. However, after Chen Yuyan's actual combat test, he found that most of these insect-type B.O.Ws were failures. They looked scary, but they were real. The combat power is very poor. Take Chimera as an example. This disgusting monster that fuses human genes and fly genes, not only has it lost the ability to fly, but its body structure is also very fragile, and its strength is even worse than that of a zombie. What is this thing used for? That's right, Chen Yuyan is inspecting the goods now. After he scans the data of this research institute, these B.O.Ws should all be included in the production list of the infinite base. Failed products, so Chen Yuyan wanted to know which ones could be used. Time passed by, and when Chen Yuyan killed several web weavers again and rushed out of the encirclement, the system prompt finally sounded, "Scanning is complete, now the infinite base has unlocked the technology tree, Resident Evil, Umbrella Tech Tree." After researching and completing the specific technologies in the technology tree, you will be able to build the corresponding buildings. With a thought, Chen Yuyan unfolded the interface of the infinite base in his mind, and sure enough, Umbrella's technology branch appeared in the technology column, and there were more than 10 technologies in it. But the situation is very dangerous now, so he just clicked on one of them to take a look. Cerberus, a B.O.W made by injecting the T-virus into the hound. Features: fast speed, with group hunting awareness. Research and development costs, 3,000 kilograms to refine tiberium ore. After the research is completed, buildings can be built, Cerberus production line. This is a good thing. Chen Yuyan's eyes lit up. Now that the goal has been achieved, it's meaningless to continue here. He connected to the communication and said, "It's almost there. I have also fought against most B.O.Ws. Commander, I believe you have obtained a lot of battle data, right? Excellent battle. Now you can retreat, the helicopter is waiting for you above the garden." The commander was obviously very satisfied. Chen Yuyan immediately rushed towards the elevator, but at this moment, a green monster appeared in front of him. This monster is covered with countless scales and has a big mouth covered with fine sharp teeth. Although it walks upright on 2 feet, judging from the excessively long claws, it is obviously developed on the basis of reptiles. B.O.W. Hunter. Chen Yuyan immediately learned about this B.O.W from the Umbrella technology tree in his mind. This is a B.O.W developed based on lizards. He was immediately overjoyed. Judging from the data, this is one of the few successful B.O.Ws in Umbrella's current stage. It's inspection time again. Chen Yuyan rushed over immediately, aiming at the hunter with the MP-5 in his hand, but to his surprise, the 9mm caliber bullet fired by the MP-5 could not penetrate the hunter's skin at all. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the hunter has already rushed up. It is about 2 meters tall, and it is like a tank at this time, slamming it with its hard head. Chen Yuyan flipped back very nimbly to avoid the hunter's impact, but it immediately waved its sharp claws and continued to attack. Chen Yuyan made a mistake and walked to the back, dropped the MP-5, took out the Saiga-12 shotgun and fired several shots in a row. Under the powerful impact of the 12-gauge shotgun, the hunter was not knocked down. Its back was bloody from countless bullets, and the green mucus flowed down, but it was still not fatal. The hunter groaned in pain, turned around and waved his claws to attack frantically. And at this time, its front door was also wide open, revealing the lighter-colored abdominal scales. Chen Yuyan looked at the hunter's lizard-like bowed legs, smiled coldly, and rushed towards the hunter instead of retreating. At the moment when the two sides crossed each other, Chen Yuyan possessed Irelia in an instant, and a sliding shovel went down, just slipping between the hunter's legs. At the same time, he raised the shotgun and aimed at the top and fired 3 times. Boom! 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 Countless projectiles sprayed out from the shotgun, all hitting the hunter's fragile abdomen. Countless green slime splashed all over Chen Yuyan's body, and then the hunter fell to the ground and did not move. This B.O.W is simply perfect. Chen Yuyan yelled in his heart. He made up his mind that after returning to the original world, the first thing he would do was to develop the technology of hunters, and then create an army of hunters. Take the elevator back to the ground, and sure enough, their helicopter is hovering in mid-air and waiting. Seeing Chen Yuyan come out, a rope was let down immediately, and he grabbed the rope and climbed up nimbly. The helicopter also began to raise its height, and the mansion, which had become a death trap, became smaller and smaller in sight, and then disappeared into the darkness. Thanks for the reward of 100 starting coins under the white moon. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 28. 28 Action Report. As soon as Chen Yuyan climbed into the cabin of the helicopter, he saw Xian holding a sprayer and spraying him fiercely. He only saw the green mucus splashed on his body being quickly neutralized and turned into a faint liquid flowing down. There were only 7 people including him on the helicopter, and Mocha and White were not there. Chen Yuyan looked at Looper and asked, "The mission is over? Are Mocha and White here?" Looper glanced at him, nodded and said, "It happens that everyone is here now. Let me make a summary of this mission. The first is the investigation of William Birkin. We have no direct evidence that he murdered James Marcus, but the company confirmed that he did it, so we don't have to worry about this matter. In addition, Mocha also obtained some information from the secret host of the Cotter Training Institute, which indicated that William Birkin's research on G Project had actually made a breakthrough. In the last 1 or 2 months, maybe there will be a finished product, the G virus. Next, White and Mocha will join Umbrella's investigation team. They will go to the Raccoon City Institute to investigate William Birkin and determine the research progress of the G virus. At the same time, they will also shoulder the task of protecting the safety of the investigation team. Mission, Rupiah said. But Chen Yuyan has his own understanding of these words. William Birkin killed James Marcus. This incident may have something to do with the internal struggle of the company, because James Marcus is also from Umbrella Company. It is absolutely impossible for one of the 3 directors to be killed by a little researcher like William. And according to the company's documents, William Birkin and Albert Wesker took over the work of Marcus to study the T virus after his death. In other words, William was also one of the beneficiaries of Marcus' death. 1. So now the company can insist that it was William who did it without evidence. Combined with the current conflict between the company and William on the G project, the situation becomes clearer. To put it bluntly, it was just an internal power struggle in the company. Even if James Marcus was really killed by William Birkin, it must have been ordered by the company's top management. William Birkin used to be a pawn of the company, but he has been disobedient and needs to be disposed of, but he is still useful now. Project G has not been fully completed. Therefore, the company's investigation of William now is to collect some dirty things about him in the past, and then after the completion of the G project, throw it out in one fell swoop to kill William and seize his research results, killing two birds with one stone. Chen Yuyan had seen this kind of thing a lot before, so his whole heart was like a mirror. Neither the company nor William was a good thing. However, whether these things are seen through or not, he also has some insight into Umbrella's cold-blooded method of crossing rivers and demolishing bridges. Moreover, why is the U.S.S where he is now not a pawn? If a chess piece wants to compete with a chess player, it must first have enough capital, and capital is what he lacks most now. This side has been replaced by Four Eyes to make a report, and she said in a cold and almost calm voice, according to our investigation of the Cotter Training Institute and the Acre Institute, we can basically confirm that the T-virus leak is transmitted through drinking water, and the medium of transmission is suspected to be the leeches used in the company's experiments. However, the leech culture tank of the Acre Research Institute has not been damaged, so part of the source of transmission should come from the sewage treatment plant behind the Cotter Training Center. The infection of the sewage treatment plant should not affect the animals in the mountains of Acre, but we have also seen that many animals are infected with the T-virus and mutated. Therefore, I checked the records left by William Birkin in the Cotter Training. Some clues found that in the past 3 months, the experimental materials used by the Research Institute have increased sharply, which has exceeded the processing capacity of the garbage treatment plant. This is an important reason for the spread of the T-virus in the Acre Mountains. The worst thing now is, the garbage disposal plant is connected to the back mountain of Raccoon City Park, and there will be huge hidden dangers here. Four Eyes finished the report and handed a document to Looper. Looper nodded and said, in other words, this abnormal amount of discarded materials is related to William Birkin's G project experiment. If this is the case, the amount of discarded materials discarded by the Raccoon City Research Institute should also be abnormal. Mocha, I leave this matter to you to investigate. Mocha's voice came from the communicator. Understood, I will arrive at the Raccoon City Hospital in 10 minutes, and I will go to the institute to meet with William Birkin soon. Looper turned to Chen Yuyan and the others and said, I have submitted a report to the Umbrella Public Health Standing Council about the possible spread of the virus, and their subordinate scavenger force will deal with the aftermath. Next, the company will give you to take a few days off to enjoy life in Paris. Back in Paris, seeing this rare holiday, Chen Yuyan also wanted to go out to have fun. He flickered to find Xian, but found that the petite girl was putting on a white coat for himself, and it seemed that she was planning to go to the laboratory. Yo Four Eyes, let's go shopping in Paris together? Chen Yuyan walked over to say hello. Not interested. Four Eyes said coldly. Are you not interested in what's in my blood? Chen Yuyan asked. Do you know there is something in your blood? Turning around with Four Eyes, a pair of slender bright eyes looked at him lightly. Accompany me to go shopping and I'll tell you. Chen Yuyan said with a smile. The Four Eyes frowned, and the expression seemed to be a little loose and wanted to agree. However, at this moment, a person next to him yelled loudly and came over, going to Paris? Count me in. I'll go, I'll go. Immediately afterwards, seeing Beltway's majestic figure, he rushed over, grabbed Chen Yuyan's shoulders, laughed and said, I was just about to go out too, let's go, together. Chen Yuyan watched. By the time he had put on a vest, the explosive muscles on his body were bulging like rocks. There was no more standard brother figure than this. Four eyes turned white and the two looked at each other, and said lightly, "You guys go, I'm going to do the experiment." Then he turned and walked into the laboratory without hesitation, and then slammed the door hard. Boom! The moment the door was closed, Chen Yuyan felt that the whole building was shaking. He looked at the laboratory and thought, looks like this girl is angry. Hey buddy, shopping with a woman is the most boring thing. Let's go, I'll take you to the underground black market. Before Beltway finished speaking, he saw a fist getting bigger and bigger in his field of vision. Half an hour later, Chen Yuyan appeared in the 13th arrondissement of Paris. This is the largest Chinatown in Europe. It is full of Oriental-style shops, some of which are hung with red lanterns. This is not recognized in some European countries. Permitted, but not in Paris. Beside him, followed by a super strong man with a height of 1.9 meters and wearing sunglasses. This combination has a super high rate of turning heads when walking on the road. Among other things, just wearing sunglasses at night is very conspicuous, and two people standing together always make people associate with some not so good things. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 29. 29 Sins. Let me tell you, Zero, what are you doing here? Beltway asked while looking around, although it was uncomfortable to wear sunglasses at night, but to cover up the dark circles under his eyes that had been beaten on his face, he also asked. That's all. Shut up. Chen Yuyan pushes him back angrily. This guy is like brown candy. After being beaten up, he will run over to go out with him desperately. He really has no choice but to take him out. Up. Chen Yuyan wandered around Chinatown in the 13th district, and finally found a handmade shop and walked in. This shop is quaint and full of classical Chinese-style furniture, and they are all made of precious wood with exquisite workmanship. Almost every piece is handmade. Walking into the store, a fresh scent of wood comes to the nostrils, which makes people feel refreshed and refreshed. In the center of the store, there is a statue of Buddha enshrined. The Buddha has benevolent eyebrows and looks at every customer who enters the store with a compassionate expression. Chen Yuyan looked around, then came to a little old man wearing glasses, and said to him bluntly, "You are the boss. I want to order a bracelet made of ebony." Then, he handed over a blueprint. The little old man took the design drawing, but he didn't look at it, he just stared at Chen Yuyan. After watching him for a full minute, he smiled and looked down at the design drawing. I saw 108 Buddha statues painted on it, each with different handprints. He is also a knowledgeable person. He frowned and said, "These mudras are Buddhist mudras, and each mudra represents a Sanskrit word. Let me see, this is a 100-character mantra and 8-character mantra? It seems that you have a deep understanding of this. It seems that I have found the right person. I will leave this bracelet to you. Money is not a problem." A smile appeared on the corner of Chen Yuyan's mouth. People who can understand this, I am afraid that only those who have been immersed in Buddhism for a long time can do it. Moreover, such a person also knows handicraft, so it is even more commendable, and it is not an exaggeration to say that it is 1 in a billion. In Paris, you can actually meet such a hidden master. With a sassy smile, he took out a few thick stacks of euro banknotes from his bag and put them on the table, amounting to as much as 40,000 to 50,000 euros. The little old man smiled, put away the money and said, "Young man, generally speaking, 108 Buddhist beads represent the verification of 108 samadhis, thus cutting off 108 kinds of troubles, which is enough for ordinary people. But not only do you need 108 Buddha statues, but you also need the Buddha statues to form handprints to imply the 100-character mantra and 8-character mantra. What kind of sin can be washed away in this way? Chen smiled lightly and said, not only have I sinned deeply in the past, but I will commit even more serious sins in the future, but what I seek is not to wash away myself, but to redeem those innocent souls who died at my hands. Although I understand that my purpose is for justice, the people who sacrificed for such justice are also innocent. Of course, if I had to choose 100 times, I would still kill them, 100 times. This is me, Twisted Justice. He, I'm old, I didn't hear a word of what you were talking about. If there's nothing else, I'll just make this string of prayer beads, and I'll pick them up in a month. The little old man shake your head. Is there a tattoo place near here? Chen asked. If you don't dislike it, the old man will help you get tattooed too. What do you want tattooed? The little old man asked. Yasha Ghost, it's tattooed on the right hand. Chen replied. 10,000 euros. Without hesitation, Chen took out another stack of banknotes and put them on the table. The little old man put the money away, and then pointed to the back hall. Chen turned around and said to Beltway, this may take several hours, if you can't wait, go find a place to spend time by yourself. Beltway smiled and said, it's okay, although I can't understand what you are talking about, but it looks quite powerful, I'll just watch here. When tattooing Chen, the little old man also said, Yasha, ugly in appearance, brave and fast, although frightening, but in fact he is one of the 8 guardians of the Buddha's Dharma, and a good god. You is the Yaksha tattooed on your body a metaphor for yourself? I have no shame in my heart, that's all. Chen said with a smile. Then why is it tattooed on the right hand? Because when I kill people, I basically use my right hand. 2 hours later, Chen looked at the tattoo on his hand with satisfaction, and left with Beltway who was already dozing off. Looking at their backs, the little old man took out a leaf cigarette he rolled himself, lit it, and smoked it slowly. At this time, a young man in his 20s pushed the door and entered. Seeing the old man, he couldn't help but feel a little strange. Grandpa, why did you come to the shop? Then he saw the tattoo tools on the table, and couldn't help but feel even more strange. Grandpa, have you tattooed people? Didn't you say that you will never do handwork or tattoos for people in this life? I met an interesting young man. I think he is good, although he has a lot of evil spirits, he should have suffered a lot of murder, but he is a good person. Isn't this contradictory? The little old man replied with a smile. Haha, Grandpa, you are joking again. If you bear the crime of murder, isn't that a murderer? Why are you waiting if you don't call the police? Your hands are itchy. Last time the rich businessman offered 100,000 euros and begged you to help him, you refused to carve a Buddha statue. The young man laughed. The little old man showed an unpredictable and profound smile. Didn't I also say that at the time? He is not worthy of that Buddha statue. After returning to the U.S. headquarters, life started to get boring again. Every day is training, training, training. Since the last time they went to perform missions in the Acre Mountains, the umbrella company seemed to have sensed some danger, and their actions began to increase. U.S. still has a high authority to consult information within the company, and Chen also learned a lot of information through careful investigation. A week later, on July 9, Raccoon City Police became concerned about mysterious killings in the mountains of Acre, in which infected creatures were actually killing people. And the elite Special Police Force S.T.A.R.S. under the Raccoon City Police Department also officially intervened in this matter, ready to investigate. In fact, this is just a conspiracy by Umbrella Corporation. Because after receiving the previous U.S. action report, Umbrella Company judged that the virus leak was difficult to stop, but their first thought was not how to curb the deterioration of the situation, but how to cover up their own evidence. Raccoon City Police Chief Brian Irons has already accepted a lot of bribes from Umbrella Corporation, but it is impossible for the company to bribe everyone. For example, the newly reorganized S.T.A.R.S team is full of young people with a sense of justice. They started investigating Umbrella's various crimes in Raccoon City very early on. Although director Brian Irons secretly obstructed it in various ways, it is not easy to say on the bright side. Therefore, now that Umbrella Corporation is eager to clean up its charges, S.T.A.R.S has become the target that must be eliminated. The death trap has already been prepared, which is the mansion in the mountainous area of Acre. It was Chen Xian and others who released all the biological weapons in the underground research institute of the mansion. Although Chen killed a lot inside, there are still many B.O.Ws left. And the Umbrella Company is going to let the undercover Albert Wesker, who has sneaked into the S.T.A.R.S, introduce this force into the mansion, and then fight those B.O.Ws, collect actual combat data, eliminate all S.T.A.R.S members by the way, and finally blow up the mansion and institutes, destroy evidence. Thank you for the 2000 starting point coins rewarded by the Star Sea Rangers. Thank you for the 1000 starting point coin rewarded by the Assimilation Fighter. Thank you for the reward of 100 starting coins from Hellfront Walker. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 30. 30 Surprise Change. Since Chen followed the U.S. to the Acre Mountains for investigation last time, everything seemed to be a little abnormal, as if a dense net was gradually opened, revealing countless darkness below and sin. In the last action, in addition to the normal salary, each member of the U.S. also received a bonus of $700,000, which was regarded as the company's recognition of them. After the 2-day vacation, Looper once again led everyone to conduct intensive training. She also told the team members in private that Umbrella may face drastic changes after that. In fact, during this period of getting along with each other, Chen Yuyan could understand that Looper is actually a very easy person to get along with. In occasional conversations, she will also openly share her past with everyone. She is 38 years old, a single mother, and a former member of the GCP Paratrooper Commando of the French Foreign Legion. After retiring and joining the Umbrella Corporation, the company also valued her excellent tactical and leadership skills and asked her to form a special operations force loyal to the company, namely the USS. In the usual training, Looper's requirements are very strict, almost to the point of cruelty. But Chen Yuyan also has to admit that her training method, which is called the Wolf Pack tactic, is very effective. It is a tactic that has been summed up in actual combat for a long time and is very suitable for small teams. It was not that Chen Yuyan had never been in contact with those retired special forces in his previous life, but none of them could reach this level of tactical combat. But in daily life, Lupo cares about the team members very much. For her team members, she even goes against the company leaders, just as her code name Lupo means in German, she-wolf. In addition, she is indeed a single mother herself, so the team members call her Wolf Mother. But in the past few days, Chen Yuyan saw a trace of anxiety on Looper's face from time to time. Most of the other team members were paranoid, so naturally they would not notice it, but Chen Yuyan was different. He took a chance to find Looper alone, and asked her, "What's the matter, Mother Wolf? What happened to the company recently?" Looper glanced at Chen Yuyan, frowned and said, "The tone of the company's top management has changed a bit recently. It seems that they now think that our last action was not perfect and there are many hidden dangers." "What hidden danger?" "Sewage treatment plant. We didn't go deep into it for investigation in the last operation, but a few days ago, the scavenger force sent by the company was wiped out there, killing more than a dozen people. The company believes that it is our responsibility," Looper said. Chen Yuyan also had some bad feelings in his heart. He said, "This kind of aftermath work is not our responsibility. We have gone deep into several areas in the Acre Mountains to investigate and made a report, telling them that the infection the source is in the sewage treatment plant, where there are likely to be a large number of leeches breeding. Is this enough? Under normal circumstances, it is enough, but now the top management of the company, I feel that they have begun to panic." Rupier said. "Panic? Are you worried that the virus leak will not be covered? Once the virus leak is confirmed, it will be a devastating blow to Umbrella. The international community will not tolerate the existence of a company that uses living people for experiments and is still developing BOW. In addition, Mocha and White's investigation report in Raccoon City has been sent back. You can take a look." Then, Looper handed Chen Yuyan a file bag. Chen Yuyan was stunned for a moment and asked, "Why did you show me these? I have read your information. The reason why you were selected by the U.S. training camp is because you have been an undercover anti-narcotics agent in Southeast Asia for 10 years. If you want to talk about killing people, everyone in the U.S. is an expert, but you must. Speaking of this kind of intrigue between high-level officials, I can only ask for your opinion." While talking, Looper walked to the counter next to him and made a cup of coffee for Chen Yuyan himself. Chen Yuyan looked at these materials, and the more he looked at him, the more solemn his face became. He put down the document, looked up at Rupier and said, "In other words, it is possible that William Birkin is secretly communicating with the US military? And Albert Wesker's actions have also become opaque to the company. And the two of them are key figures in the development of the T-virus, and William Birkin even developed the G-virus by himself. It seems that William Birkin wants to bring the company down. What do you think?" Rupier asked. Chen Yuyan thought for a while, then raised two fingers and said, "Actually, the B.O.W developed by Umbrella Company cannot be hidden in the underground arms market, which means that those big countries actually turn a blind eye to this matter. Close your eyes. But there are two prerequisites for this. The first is the irreplaceability of Umbrella, and the second is that these things must never be seen. Once these two prerequisites are gone, then Umbrella's end. But if William Birkin is brought closer to the United States, then Umbrella is no longer unique in the field of BOW. William Birkin can completely assist the US military in developing BOW. Because of this, William Birkin King will be ready to give the entire Umbrella Corporation as a gift to the United States." "Why?" Looper's face also began to look bad. Chen Yuyan took out a sheet from the report, handed it to Looper, and said, "Because of the experimental waste. We can see that since William Birkin entered the Raccoon City Research Institute in 1992 and began to study the G-virus, the actual progress of the experiment is all within a controllable range. In recent months, the experimental waste generated by the Raccoon City Research Institute has exploded, which is absolutely abnormal. Because the experiment is entering the final stage, the number of experimental subjects has increased. This should be normal, right?" Chen Yuyan shook his head and said, "No, it's not normal. Because just in May of this year, Umbrella Company just built a new garbage disposal plant in the back hill of Raccoon City. But only 1 month later, the Raccoon City Research Institute the garbage immediately exceeded the processing capacity of the garbage treatment plant. Is this normal? You know, William Birkin's experiment can be said to be anti-human. The garbage inside included a large number of mutated experimental subjects and even mutilated human corpses. And once these things are known to the outside world, it is easy to find out that many of the human corpses are missing persons from Raccoon City. You mean that William Birkin did it on purpose? He's not an idiot either. Naturally, he understands that the company won't tolerate him bringing the G-virus to the United States. For his own better life in the future, the safest thing to do is to kill the Umbrella Company." Chen Yuyan sneered and drank. After taking a sip of coffee, "I have to say that Looper's coffee tastes really good." Looper took a deep breath, and she took out the communicator to report to the high level, but suddenly hesitated. Chen Yuyan grasped this detail very keenly, and suddenly asked, "Mother Wolf, your daughter has just started middle school, right? What are your plans? Just say what you have to say." Looper frowned and looked at Chen Yuyan. However, at this moment, the communicator in Looper's hand suddenly rang. After she connected it and listened for a while, she suddenly jumped up and shouted loudly, "How is this possible? What happened?" An unknown accident occurred on the Zodiac train from Raccoon City. The investigation team of Umbrella Company, White, and Mocha, were on the train. Looper said seriously. Thanks to Fenjai Piaofi and book friend 1410161508584440 for the reward of 100 starting coins.